Boleh doktor.
Okey. Sekejap saya start ni satu lagi. Okay, so welcome to IT application in built environment. Yeah. So for this week class, so we will go through some briefing and introduction with programming. Right. So for this courses, yeah. So the lecturers is me myself, Dr. Azwari, and also we have a new lecturer which will help in conducting these courses. Yeah. So Dr. Aini Sarah Ismail. All right. So for briefing, right? So for this course, for the assessment, there will be quiz for 20 marks. Yeah, so there will be 10 quizzes throughout the semester, and you will get 2 marks for each quizzes. Yeah, and this quiz will be conducted weekly. Yeah, so try not to miss the all of these quiz. So because it gives a lot of marks here. Yeah, and then we will also have a mid-semester test for 20 marks and two individual project. Yeah, so for 25 marks each. Yeah, and then you also need to do either presentation or report for 5 marks for each of the project. Yeah, so for this course, uh, the the lecture will be conduct differently compared to the other class. Yeah, so a video lecture will be given a week after a week earlier, and then you need to go through the content before the class. Yeah, and then during the class there will be a short quiz first, and we will do like this every week. Yeah, all right. And try not to miss class more than 2 or 3 times. Yeah, so because the if not, you cannot attend the sorry, you cannot pass the course. Yeah, all right. So some introduction to programming. All right, so don't think that this course is easy. All right, so because programming is really hard to understand and really hard to perform. Yeah, so any of you either have any experience doing programming before? Ada tak yang pernah buat programming sebelum ni? Kalau ada, you can press thumb up. See? Seorang pun tak pernah kan? Alright, so uh, so don't worry. Even though it's quite hard to understand, but if you go through these courses properly and you survive until the final, until the end, it will give you a huge benefit in your career. Yeah, so especially if you want to uh, solve any problem related to your works and so on. Yeah. All right. So for you to uh, understand the programming, right? So first you need to know at least a basic computer skills, and you need to know some of the parts that will help you in computing and performing the programming later on. Yeah. So basically, computer system is split into hardware and software. The hardware is the term refer to computer physical component, where it is not an individual device but rather a system of device. And some of the major components including the central processing unit, main memory, secondary storage device, input device, and output device. Yeah, so the most important component in computer is the central processing unit, because without central processing unit you cannot run the software which you will be using to uh, write your coding later on. Yeah. And then we have the memory, or sometimes we call it random access memory. Yeah, so RAM. Yeah, so RAM is also plays a major role in programming, because when you perform computation and you want to simulate anything, and or you want to store the data into the system, so you will be using main memory. Yeah. And then we have secondary device, uh, which enable you to store all of your file and so on. Yeah. And then input device, which if you want to collect any data of outside into the computer, so you will need input device. For example, we have keyboard. Yeah, so if you want to key in something, so you need to use input device to help you collect the data. And then output device for you to help to present your result and so on. Yeah. All right. So, and then software refers to the program that runs the computer. Yeah. Sorry, runs on the computer. There are two general categories of software. The first one is operating system, where operating system is a set of programs that manage the computer hardware device and control. For example, Windows, Mac, OS X, and Linux. Right? So that is the operating system. But the one which we will be focusing is the application software. It refers to the program that make the computer useful to the users. So this program, which are generally called application, solve specific problems or perform general operation that satisfy the needs of computer. Right? For example, word processing, speech chat, and data package. Right? So that is example for the application software. And we call and the objective of these courses is to help you develop these kind of applications. Yeah. All right. So, and then there are also some basic terms which you need to understand before you proceed with learning programming. Yeah. So the first one is computer programming. Right. So what is computer programming? Right. So basically, a computer is a programmable machine. Yeah, so this means it can execute a program list of instructions and respond to new instruction that is given. Yeah, and to do that, computer programming, you need to understand the process of developing and implementing various set of instructions to enable the computer to do a certain task. Right, so you design the solution and then you translate it into programming language. You translate it using programming language to enable the computer solve your problems. Yeah, and then programs which are written to solve problems or perform tasks on a computer. Yeah. All right, so the next one is programmer. All right, so what programmer do is translate the solution or task into a language the computer can understand. All right, so as the programmer write the program, they must keep in mind that the computer will only do what we instruct it to do. Right, so if you instruct the wrong solution, then the computer will run the wrong program. Yeah, so because of this, we must be very careful and true with our instruction. All right, so there are a set of step you need to consider before you completing your program. Yeah. All right, so the first computer programmer is Ada Lovelace, which she first developed an algorithm for a machine. Yeah, so in 1842, so Lovelace translate an article about Charles Babbage proposed analytic engine. All right, so in her notes, she described an algorithm that is cited as the first computer program, making her the first computer programmer. Yeah, she also theorized that the computer could one day plays music and chess. Right, so we can see that it's already happened during the day. Yeah, ADA, a U.S. Department of Defense computer language, is named in her honor. Right, so the new terms here is the algorithm. Right, so you need to understand algorithm. So how to create the algorithm from the problems. So for you to be enabled to create the program. Yes, you need to understand the algorithm first. And an algorithm is a list of instruction, procedure or formula used to solve a problem. Right? So the word was derived from the name of mathematician Muhammad Ibn Musa al-Khwarizmi. Yeah. So we will go through we will go through the procedure of developing an algorithm in almost every lectures. Yeah. All right, so next we have pseudocode. Yeah, pseudocode is a computer programming language that resembles plain English that cannot be compiled or executed, but explain a resolution to a problem. So, meaning, so maksudnya pseudocode ni kita tak boleh nak execute, tapi sebagai kita gunakan dia sebagai guide to help you develop the algorithm later on, right? Because pseudocode, it doesn't refer to any programming language. Yeah, so for you to develop an working algorithm, right, so you need to write based on programming language, right? So there are a lot of programming language available nowadays. For example, we have C++, Fortran, yeah, we have Python, Visual Basic, and so on, right? So there are different set of language depend on which compiler you use on. Yeah. All right. For example here, making a cup of coffee. Right, so the pseudocode means it's almost similar with the algorithm, which is the steps or procedure which you take to solve the problem. Right, so let's say the problem is making a cup of tea. Yeah, so you need to list out the sentence of the procedures. Right, so in details. Yeah, so organize everything together and then plug in kettle, put tea bag in cup, put water into kettle, wait for the kettle to boil, and add water to the cup, remove tea bag with a spoon or fork, and lastly, add mix and or sugar, and lastly serve. So that is the procedure or the step in making a cup of coffee. A cup of tea. Yeah. So if you see here, it's just using a plain English, right? So where this, if you run this in a compiler, so you cannot translate it into the machine language. Yeah. And for example two, game sequence, this is much more comparable with the algorithm. Yeah. So we have this pseudocode use if and else operators. Yeah. So if spaceship sprite touch as strike sprite, then show explosion sprite, play explosion sound, and subtract a life. All right, so that and then end uh, end the scene. Yeah, and for the other condition, if life equal to 0, which means the user is dead, then stop the game, show game over screen, else restart the game. All right, and then end the sequence. All right, so this is the example of pseudocode using uh plain English. Yeah. All right, so next you need to understand what is the source code. Yeah, so in this course, right, so you will be learning using two different uh, platform. Yeah, so the first platform you will be using Visual Basic. Yeah, so for the first part, so Dr. Aimi Sarah will help you in understand this Visual Basic. Yeah, and then for the second part, you will learn you will learn programming using Python. Yeah, so there are two different programming language which you will be learning. Yeah. So back to the source code, it consists of the programming statement that are created by programmer with a text editor or visual programming tools and then save in a file. So this source code, you can use it to uh, refer to help you develop a different program. Yeah. So for example, a programmer using C language type in a desired sequence of C language statement using a text editor and then save them as a name file. So this is said to contain the source code. So the source code is executable, yeah, which means if you run the program, so you can use the applications, yeah. So here is an example of the source code using Python. Yeah. So the the text here is not in plain language. All right. So it's basically using the Python language. Yeah. All right. So the next term which you need to understand is a flowchart. Yeah, so flowchart is a formalized graphic representation of a logic sequence, work or manufacturing process organization chart, or similar formalized structure. All right, so the purpose of a flowchart is to provide people with a common language or reference point when dealing with a project or process. So you translate your problems into the flowchart first, and then from the flowchart you can translate it into the algorithm, and then after that you use programming language and then start writing the coding for the program. All right, so that is the sequence you need to follow. uh, it will help you to understand your program more. Yeah, so by using the flowchart, so you can try to simulate whether your program is working or not. Yeah, and if there is any possible solution which you could use to help you solve the problems. Yeah, so flowchart usually use simple geometric symbol and arrows to define relationship. So this is the example of a flowchart. Yeah. So if the condition is met, and if it's met, it goes to the next process and so on. Yeah. So this also will be explained in detail during your next lecture. Yeah. All right, so what is programming language? So programming language is uh, uh, what we call a text, call it a set of text which help you to translate the program. Yeah, so basically computer programming is always done by using the programming language. Yeah, so you cannot use plain language to execute your program, so you need to translate it first based on programming language you use. Right? So there exists more than 25,000 programming language in the world, and some of them only known by their developers. Right? So you can see Java, Visual Basic, PHP, C++, Python, Pascal, and so on. Right? So there are a lot of programming language you can use to develop a program. But there are a specific language which help you to develop a program, and some of the language help you to develop a website. For example, PHP, Java is more onto the website. Yeah. Visual Basic, C++, Python is more for application development. Yeah. So for this course, you will be focusing on application development. Yeah, using two language, which is Visual Basic and Python. Yeah. All right. So there are five generation of programming language. So the first generation and still a machine language, or the level of instruction and data that the processor is actually given to work on. All right. So machine language for of the first generation is only understandable by computer. Ya, so kalau kita baca skrip untuk first generation language, memang tak faham apa-apa. Ya, so mostly dia binary number 10 10 10. Ya, so that is the first generation language. And usually if you use any other type of compiler or a programming language, we want to translate that language to the first generation language, right? So into binary number, which is only understandable by the computer. Yeah. And then we have second generation language, which is assembler, or sometimes called assembly language. Third generation language is a start of high level programming, such as C, C++, or Java, where a compiler convert the statement of a specific high programming language into machine language, right? So that's what we do. Translate the programming language into machine language, right? So machine language only computer understand. Yeah, so computer does not understand any other language, English and so on. Even if you type everything, let's say in Google, so the CPU will translate it into machine language first, and then the computer will execute the CPU will execute the program. Yeah. All right, so third generation language requires a considerable amount of programming knowledge. Yeah. Then fourth generation language is designed to be closer to natural language than three generation language. Yeah. So language for accessing database are often described as fourth generation. And the last one is fifth generation language. So this is what we will be focusing on, where the fifth generation language is a programming that use a visual or graphic development interface to create source language that is usually compiled with third generation and fourth generation language compiler. So Microsoft, Borland, IBM, and other companies make fifth generation visual programming product for developing application in Java. For example, visual programming allow you to easily envision or object-oriented programming, class hierarchies, and drag icon to assemble program components. All right, so that's what we'll be doing in this course. So we need to develop applications based on fifth generation language. Right? So basically, it's more easier compared to the fourth and third generation language. So if you use third generation language, so you need to have a lot of knowledge in programming writing. Yeah. So, but for fifth generation language, it's more users friendly. Yeah, so user friendly, and is more easier to understand the platform. Yeah. All right. So, what is machine code? Yeah. So, machine language which only understandable by computers. Yeah. So, machine code, also known as machine language, is the elemental language of a computer, comprising a long sequence of binary digital zeros and ones. Right? So 101010. Yeah. So dia lebih kepada on off, yes, no, dan sebagainya lah. Yeah. So sometimes referred to as machine code or object code, where machine language is a collection of binary digits or bits that the computer read and interprets. Right? So machine language is the only language a computer is capable of understanding. Right? So that's why we don't use we didn't do program based on machine code. Yeah, so you nak tulis apa, you tak faham pun 1010. So that's why we need a compiler or integrated environmental development for us to translate the more users friendly code into machine code. Ya, so biasa kita boleh guna biasa dengan menggunakan compiler ataupun programming language dan lebih kepada uh, plain English tapi executable. Ya, so kita boleh execute dia. Ya, not exactly a plain language, but readable language which you can understand before you translate it into the machine language. Yeah, so that's why we need a compiler to translate the text into the machine code. Yeah. All right. Assembly language is sometimes referred to assembly or ASL, where it is a low-level programming language used to interface with the computer hardware. Yeah. All right. So next is the low-level language. Right, so low-level language have the advantage that they can be written to take advantage of peculiarities in the architecture of the CPU. Yeah, so thus program written in a low-level language can be extremely efficient, making optimal use of both computer memory and processing time. So biasanya kalau you pernah kalau you pernah you biasa gunakan komputer, so sometimes you run the command prompt. Tahu tak command prompt tu apa? Tahu tak command prompt tu apa? So mana-mana komputer ada, laptop ke, PC ke, mesti ada command prompt.
Tak tahu doktor.
Tak tahu command prompt? Ya, so command prompt, so kalau you pergi dekat sini, dekat search ke, dekat CMD, ya CMD. Ini dia, ini command prompt. Yeah, so this is the basic low-level language platform you can use to do some basic programming. So kalau you nak cari, basically kalau you nak cari files, yeah, you want to install software dan sebagainya, so you can use command prompt to do some basic program, yeah. So you want to apa ni? If you want to reprogram your laptop, alright, so you boleh gunakan command prompt kat sini lah. So ini the basic platform you can use to perform low level programming. Ya, yeah, so basic saja sebab it is directly connected to the CPU and RAM. Ya, yeah, so kalau you boleh buat direct saja. So but the disadvantage is you cannot perform long programming writing. Ya, so you mesti yang simple saja. Ya, so kalau you nak buat a long program, so basically we use compiler. Ya, so compiler to perform that. Alright, so high level language, right? So permit faster development of large program where the final program are executed by computer is not as efficient, but the saving in programmer time generally far outweigh the inefficiency of the finished product. Yeah, so this is because the cost of writing a program is nearly constant for each line of code regardless of the language. Yeah, and then each of the lines which we write will be translated into binary machine language, yeah, which only costs 1/10 as much in program development as low-level language where each line of the code represent a single machine instruction. Yeah, so satu code tu macam you buat satu line, so it represent one instruction for the computer. Yeah. All right, so the first high-level language used is Fortran. Yeah, so if in School of Engineering, right, so they usually use Fortran. Yeah, so Fortran during the early days. So, but nowadays they already use Python or C++. Yeah, and it is a high-level program language that is far removed from the computer instruction architecture, where it is typically more user-friendly than the low-level program language. Tapi kalau if you want to develop a simple application, so you can use Fortran. But the language it use is different compared to the one we will be learning. Yeah. All right, so compiler, yeah, so it is basically a special program that process statement written in particular programming language and then turn them into machine language or code that a computer processor use. So after you write a program, your source code, your source language statement are compiled into machine code that is stored as an executable file. So scripting language like Perl and PHP does not to be compiled. Yeah. So integrated development environment. Right. So what is IDE? Yeah. So IDE is a software program that is designed to help programmer and developers build a software. Right. So most IDE include a source code editor, a compiler, build automation tools, and a debugger. Yeah. So basically, we will be using integrated development environment, right? So we have a Visual Basic environment in Microsoft Excel. So that is the platform which you will be using for your first part of the courses. Yeah. So developing application using Visual Basic in Microsoft Excel. Ya, so Microsoft Excel you biasa gunakan. So mostly semua orang ada Microsoft Excel lah, ya. But try to use the latest version, yeah, so latest version, and try to synchronize with your with Dr. Aimi Sarah nanti lah, ya. So Dr. Aimi guna version berapa?
Sorry? Question
Version berapa?
boleh ulang soalan tak? Tadi macam ada lag sikit.
Okay. So nanti Dr. Aimi apa ni link dengan student lah, ya. Guna version yang mana. So you can use if you don't have a later version, you can also use a previous version, but it might be difficult to understand the lecture later on. Alright, so try to use the same version with the time Sarah, yeah. And then for the second part, programming with Python, so we will be using a PyCharm IDE. Yeah, so basically it's a software application to develop a application. Yeah, so it's quite easy to use because it already have the source code editor compiler already integrate into the same platform. Yeah. All right, so debugger. So you need also to understand what is debugger. Yeah. So it is a special program used to find errors or bugs in other program. Debugger allow a programmer to stop a program at any point and examining the and change the value of the variables. All right. So as I already said, yeah. So doing a program is really hard. Yeah. And if you have any errors, you need to know and you need to understand how to solve it yourself. Yeah, so you kena pandai cari sendiri kat mana error tu, and then you need to understand how to what we call to change the errors and to change the variable and so on. Yeah, so you need to understand how to make it correct by yourself. So you kena pandai sendiri betulkan. So kalau tak, memang susah. So setiap kali you run ada error, kalau you tak tahu macam mana nak betulkan, so akan jadi masalah lah. You tak boleh nak run you punya program. And sometimes every students have different errors. Bukan error yang sama. Kadang-kadang pelik-pelik error keluar. And you need to understand how to fix it. So how to fix it. And in this courses, you will be teach how to do debug to find the error in your program. So if there is a error, so you need to fix it first before you can run the program. So usually any types of IDE with debugger so you can't do it automatically. Alright, so you tak perlu nak tengok satu line cari yang mana error. Alright, so you just run the debugger. It will help you to find the errors. Yeah. Right. And then graphical user interface, GUI. So this is the final product. This is the kind of final product will be performed. Yeah. So you want to develop a GUI. Right. So GUI is a graphical user interface. It's the user interface to the computer. Right. So when the users run your program, so they will go to the graphical user interface to do some calculation, right, to log in and so on, right? So some element of the GUI includes the text box, button, pull down menus, list, combo box, and etc. Yeah. So different IDE, all right, so enable you to develop different ways of developing the GUI. Yeah, so kalau you guna Visual Basic, so mostly click and drag. You click and drag and then you letak coding kat dalam, and then you can run the program. In Python, so you need to write the program first to enable you to use the elements. Yeah. So, but the concept is similar. Yeah. So you will be given a canvas. Yeah. You will be given a canvas. Then you need to design your own graphical user interface. Yeah. So how to make it functional, right? So that what you'll be learning in these courses, right? So to make sure that your application is functional and working properly. Yeah, bukan you just run, boleh run saja, but you also need to make sure that it is correct and it is what you call logic lah, yes, logic. And bukan you run and then nampak jawapan salah and then you think that it's already correct. No. Yeah, so make sure it is functional and correct. Yeah. All right. So software development language, there are a lot of platform you can use to develop an application. Yeah. For example, we have C, C++, Pascal, Visual Basic, Python, and so on. Yeah. So web language, we have HTML, XML, JavaScript, PHP, Java, and so on, right? All right, so that's all for the briefing and introduction to programming. So all the best to you and try to survive this course. Yeah, so it's not as hard as you think. All right, so if you give a good commitment to understand the language, yeah, so there are two languages. You try to give a little bit of commitment to understand the language, then you will be able to write your own program for your application. Yeah, so any question? Ada soalan?
So far tak ada, Doktor.
Tak ada, ya? Alright, so regarding the assessment, any question regarding the assessment? Alright, so for these courses, there will be no final. Tak ada final, yeah. So, but most of your marks will be on your individual assignment. So, saya tak boleh nak buat group assignment sebab saya pernah buat group assignment sebelum ni, but mostly tak semua yang contribute to the development lah, yeah. So, saya dah kecilkan dia punya scope and change it to individual assignment. Yeah. So 25 marks. Yeah. So there are a lot of marks in individual assignment, in both individual assignment. Right. So total up to 25%. Yeah. And first project is for Visual Basic. second project is for Python. Yeah, so there are two different set of project there. And then presentation or report. All right, so it depends. So if you have enough time, we will do a presentation for your project. But since there are a lot of you, I think that's more than 120. So maybe we change it to report writing, right? So to explain your project, yeah. All right. So for the mid-semester test, there will be code writing, yeah. So manually, tulis tangan, yeah. So you try to. That's why you need to understand how to write your program. Ya, so bukan tulis dekat PC. Ya, so you kena tulis tangan. Write your program by hand. So that is to help you to develop a skill to write the algorithm. Ya. And then for quiz, akan ada 10 quiz lah. Ya, so setiap minggu. Ya, so akan ada quiz setiap minggu. And try not to miss your quizzes. Yeah, so kalau you hilang markah banyak dekat quiz, you will have a problem later on. And you nak score A pun susah nanti. Yeah, so don't miss your quiz lah. Yeah. Alright, so any question about assessment? Ada yang tak faham?
Doktor.
Yeah.
Sorry, Doktor, saya nak tanya pasal generation language yang
Generation language.
part tadi.
Okay.
Kalau yang pertama tadi dia binary number kan?
Yang pertama binary number. Yeah, so first generation language. Yeah.
Kalau yang second tu dia
second ni assembly language dia guna, kalau you pernah guna apa ni dipanggil, saya lupa, program Scratch apa, dia tarik dia punya keyword macam tu.
Oh,
Assembler, ya. Yeah.
okay.
Contohnya macam object, run, program dan sebagainya macam itulah.
Okay. Lepas tu kan Doktor, nota ni Doktor akan bagi dekat e-learning tak?
Apa dia?
Untuk nota yang hari ni kita belajar, Doktor akan bagi dekat e-learning tak?
Note saya ni ke? Nanti saya akan upload dekat e-learning lah.
Okay. Okay, terima kasih Doktor.
Alright, so satu lagi mengenai macam mana kita conduct this kelas lah, ya. Yeah. So kita akan upload video lecture dahulu seminggu awal, ya. So seminggu awal sebelum kelas. So you boleh download video lecture tu dekat e-learning lah, ya. Yeah. So take time to go through your content and then try to do the hands-on. Buat dahulu, ya. So buat dahulu hands-on yang diberi. Kemudian masa kelas, so kita akan bincangkan. We will do a discussion class sajalah. So apa yang you tak faham, and then apa yang additional yang you kena tahu, macam mana nak tulis dan sebagainya. So kalau ada yang salah, ada yang error, so itu semua dalam discussion class. Ya, so biasanya discussion class tak ambil masa yang panjang lah. Mungkin dalam 1 jam macam tu saja. Ya, so kalau cepat lah, ya. Biasanya saya buat tak sampai dalam 1 jam macam tu lah. Tapi take times to go through the video lecture dahulu. Ya, so you ada masa seminggu, so cari masa untuk go through the video content. So video content tak lama selalunya. Ya, so below than 1 hour lah. Ya, so try and then buat terus hands on yang diberi. Ya, so masuk kelas nanti, so kita akan discuss. So apa-apa skills yang you kena tahu, macam mana nak write the proper writing for the coding dan sebagainya lah. Ya, boleh faham ya? So sebab apa? Kalau you tak go through video content, you akan ada masalah dekat short quiz tu. Ya, sebab short quiz is based on the video content. Boleh faham ya?
Dr. Azwari, saya just nak
Ya.
add on the video tu. Saya rasa saya akan upload dekat YouTube lah sebab quite besar. So kalau saya letak dalam e-learning tu mungkin akan berat sikit lah nak.
Ya. Saya pun buat macam tu. Ya, so
Okay. So saya akan
upload
bagi
dekat, tapi you letak link dia dekat e-learning lah.
Yeah, so should be ready by tonight lah kot, insyaAllah.
Ya.
And then pasal yang version yang Dr. Azwari cakap tu, version Excel kan Dr. Azwari maksud?
Excel, ya.
Kalau saya tengok ni Microsoft 365, so should be kalau Excel 2016 and above should be no problem lah untuk you ikut
Ya.
the lecture. So tu saja dari saya.
Okay, saya rasa Microsoft 365 tu semua student boleh access rasanya.
Boleh download kan student?
Boleh download sebab ada rasanya free license for student rasanya. Okay, ada lagi soalan untuk assessment tadi?
Doctor,
Yeah.
we have to install Microsoft 365 for 2016 and above.
Yes.
365.
365 or 2010 and above. Mana-mana boleh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Cuma dia punya apa ni, sebab later you need to activate the developer tab tu. Different version might have different ways to activate it lah, yeah. So try to take note. Try to take note. Okay, any other question regarding assessment? Yeah. And then so any other question about how to conduct the lecture? Okay, boleh faham ya? So jangan miss quiz. Ya, so quiz akan ada setiap minggu lah. Ya, so short quiz saja. So saya akan buka dekat e-learning. Ya, so bila masuk kelas tu, we take attendance first within 5 minutes, and then we directly start with the quiz. Ya, so jangan masuk lewat lah. So kalau you masuk lewat, you akan miss you punya quiz lah. Ya. Okay. So any other question regarding the introduction? Right. So even though I said the programming is quite hard, but most of the students are able to score lah. Yeah. So eventually, given you give a good commitment to understand the language. Right? So macam you belajar bahasa baru lah. Yeah. So you nak belajar bahasa Arab, bahasa English, you nak belajar bahasa Korean. Yeah. So sama saja. So the basic concept is you need to understand how the programming language statement works. Yeah, so there are the set of instructions sendiri. Yeah, and then if you understand these two basic programming platform, yeah, so it will give you a strong base in programming, and then you might able to develop it in higher programming language platform. Yeah, so kalau you nak guna untuk higher development pun boleh, tak ada masalah. But you need to understand the concept first. So that's one of the objective of this course. Yeah. All right. Okay, so if there is no further question, I think we'll end our briefing here today. Yeah. All right. So that's all from me. Thank you again. Dr. Amy ada apa-apa nak tambah?
Tak ada.
Tak ada.
Thank you.
Alright, so if there's no other question, right, so thank you everyone, and we will meet again next week, yeah.